If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend. God bless all who have sacrificed, and we honor them and their families. Now, this Make America Healthy Again movement has been probably one of the most popular. I know you hear the critics and the fringes out there, but we have been asking these questions for years. Why is obesity rising? Why do we have addictions to food and tobacco? And, why aren't we exercising more? Why are we looking at pictures from the beach of Memorial Day weekend 1970 and everybody looks skinny as opposed to, us now? Now the majority of people are obese. We keep asking these questions. And so President Trump promised by nominating RFK Jr. that this is going to be a huge focus of his presidency, the Make America Healthy Again movement. And so yesterday, RFK Jr. and Health and Human Services the Health and Human Services Department released their assessment on making our children healthy again, or MOCA, if they're going to be using an acronym for that. And they say this report is a call to action. They say it presents the stark reality of American children's declining health, backed by compelling data and long-term trends. More importantly, it seeks to unpack the potential dietary, behavioral, medical, and environmental drivers beyond this crisis. Most other countries don't have the highest per capita, the most food waste, the highest expenditure on food, but then the unhealthiest kids. There's a problem. So the four cornerstones of this plan include to attack the diet. They say the American diet has shifted dramatically towards ultra-processed foods, leading to nutrient depletion, increased caloric intake, and exposure to harmful additives. Nearly 70% of children's calories now come from this fake food, this ultra-processed food. This is contributing to obesity, diabetes, and other chronic conditions. They're not wrong. Number two is the aggregation of environmental chemicals. Children are being increasingly exposed to synthetic chemicals, some of which have been linked to developmental issues, chronic disease. They say the current regulatory framework should be continually evaluated to ensure that chemicals and other exposures not interact together to pose a threat to the health of our children. A third one, which again has been something we have been harping on, and other administrations have too. Michelle Obama did work on this, etc. But I think finally we have a focused initiative that is going to hopefully tackle this from all ends. Lack of physical activity and chronic stress. They say American children are experiencing unprecedented levels of inactivity, screen use, sleep deprivation, and chronic stress. These factors significantly contribute to the rise of chronic diseases and mental health challenges. And then a fourth issue that not a lot of people have brought up, and I'm very, very glad that RFK Jr. has brought that up, is the over-medicalization. The amount of medications I am seeing the pediatric population on who doesn't have cancer, who doesn't have asthma, who doesn't have diabetes, who doesn't have a chronic disease, starts to make us wonder what we're doing. They write, there is a concerning trend of overprescribing medications to children, often driven by conflicts of interest in medical research, regulation, and practice. This has led to unnecessary treatments and long-term health risks. Now, they break this down looking at life expectancy. It's about, I think, a 70-page report. They're also looking at what our farmers are going through, and they want to be able to help them with their growth of healthy food and natural food, and less of this burden of pesticides and hormones. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see what gets done in such a very short period of time. But they say 40% of the 73 million children that we have, 40% of them have at least one chronic health condition, according to the CDC. So basically, nearly half of all our children that should be healthy, vibrant, strong, have a chronic disease, whether it's diabetes, obesity, autoimmune, allergies, asthma, behavioral disorders. And, of course, the chronic disease crisis has far-reaching consequences. They say over 75% of American youth are ineligible for military service. Why? Because they're obese, poor physical fitness, mental health challenges. 75% of our current younger population are Generation Alphas, not able to then be called to duty or fit for duty. That's frightening. It's not that we want all these kids to go into the military, but if you look at how physical education was done in the 50s and 60s, schools were always thinking about, our future generation, how to protect us, national security. I remember in the 90s and the 2000s, the Pentagon was talking about how we're having fewer and fewer fit people that we could rely on. And I know some people were joking at the time saying, well, that's how you get out of the draft. I'm going to eat more, Doritos and ding dongs. But, how are you taking care of your family? How are you protecting yourself? And so this is obviously a huge concern. And so it's a very interesting report. I urge you guys to read it. Diabetes is increasing. We're seeing colon cancer rates increasing. Autism spectrum disorder is impacting 1 in 31 children by age 8. Autism spectrum childhood cancer. They say the incidence has risen over 40% since 1975. And then, not to mention the mental health crisis. So even though we've been talking about this for years, finally, we have a report that kind of puts us all together and says, look, this is why we are going to be looking at what we're doing with kids and reevaluating if fluoride is necessary now that we have fluoride toothpaste and we have better access to dentistry and we have vitamins with fluoride. So I really commend that the Trump administration is working on this and RFK Jr. is working on this. So we'll see what comes of it. But we'll go into a little bit more detail later on the show. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool Power Tool Combo Kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So, I know many of you are sick of the topic of COVID, but I do have to tell you about a newer strain. Apparently, this strain has has a little bit more severity than what we've, thank God, gotten used to the last couple years. And so this new variant has been behind a surge of hospitalizations in China. Now it's been detected in the U.S., as often what happens in China doesn't stay in China. And they say that the latest CDC data, according to Daily Mail, shows the new strain, which we're calling NB.181 or 1.8.1, has been detected in international travelers coming into California, Washington State, Virginia, and New York City. The patients came from 9 countries: China, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, France, the Netherlands, and Spain. They came to the U.S. between April 22nd and May 12th. The variant has also been detected in Hawaii, Rhode Island, and Ohio. They say there's some alarm over this because it appears to be more infectious than the current dominant strains. They say in China, severely ill respiratory patients with COVID has jumped from 3.3 to 6.3%. The proportion of these Chinese ER patients being positive for this has doubled, at least from 7.5 to 16.2%. So officials in Taiwan are also reporting a surge in COVID ER admissions, with the number rising 78% in 1 week over the last 7 days. So hospitalizations going up in Hong Kong, Taiwan. It is concerning because our issue with COVID was, look, if we could stay out of the hospital, if we could not need the ventilator, not need oxygen, we could overcome our symptoms. If we could not get the blood clot, if we could not get the heart or the renal or the other sorts of sequelae that can happen with severe infection, we'll be fine. So how I would gauge where we are with COVID, it wasn't the CDC saying, here are the numbers of people who have COVID on their death certificate. Because remember, there were reports that even if you died of a heart attack or pneumonia, if you had COVID positive blood or testing, to put it on the death certificate as well. So the numbers I would look at are the hospitals and the ICU beds. And that's what I had access to. So then I could see what exactly is going on. And when I would see the hospitals are like, most of our admissions are not COVID related, that was a good sign. But if they're like, we're having a lot of respiratory illness and they're COVID, then that tells us, to me, that data I could trust. So although it sounds like the CDC is going to get better now that we have a new administration. So being that the variant has now been in the U.S., what are we seeing? Well, I, am seeing patients through telemedicine. So I get one view. And I'm getting a lot of people who have had horrible coughs, horrible bronchitis symptoms, pneumonia-type symptoms, but they are saying, the majority of them, that they're testing negative at home. Now, these at-home COVID tests, many of them are expired. Many of them were based on previous Omicron strains. So I've kept all my tests. I think I've only used a couple of the COVID tests. So if I grabbed a COVID test, it could have been from Delta. I don't even know. So this new NB strain, do we know if our current tests are testing for it? So if somebody says I tested negative for COVID, give me antibiotics. In fact, I had a patient who called up saying the antibiotics that they were given by another doctor didn't work. And I go, has anybody seen you in person yet? Have you had a chest x-ray? Have you been tested for COVID? Well, the doctor gave me the antibiotics because my at-home COVID test was negative. My advice to you is if you are having a cough, difficulty breathing, can't stop coughing, coughing fits, chest pain with the cough, get yourself checked out. There's airport testing partner Ginkgo Bioworks. The travelers at select airports can volunteer to self-collect 2 nasal swabs and complete a short survey. These swabs are then tested for a range of diseases. The travelers behind the cases of the new variant were tested between April 22nd and May 12th, so they did get some data. So experts are watching this. In Taiwan, there were about 19,000 visits for COVID last week. This NB 1.81 variant is becoming a concern. So what do we do? Well, here's the thing. Everybody should be in contact with their medical provider, somebody who knows you closer than somebody in a government or public official. And you need to talk to them about your health vulnerabilities. If they think getting a booster is going to help you with this strain, you and they should talk about that. Right? If we come to find out that the boosters need to be updated for a strain like this, I'll leave it up to you. I don't know much about these. I am feeling like the more I learn about COVID and these strains and our vaccines, I feel like I know less than I should. Why? Because the data is incomplete. When you tell me that you are updating the booster, which I had asked for years ago, and we've got it, but by the time we got it, there were new strains. It's kind of like with the flu vaccine. We only, shall we say, decide what we decide what we're going to use for our flu vaccine before the flu season hits Southern Hemisphere. Everybody thinks, well, we guide ourselves by what's happening in the South. We can't. Our flu season runs November to May. Their flu season runs May to November. We have to decide 3 months prior to Australia's flu season what we're going to use for a flu shot. So these flu shots offer some protection, but not 100%. So do I have faith in our vaccines? I do. I do think you should talk to your medical provider regarding side effects versus benefits versus risks. But I do feel that our natural immunity and our combined vaccine immunity, which they call artificial immunity, they don't like to use the word unnatural. Artificial immunity is what we give you by a vaccine. Natural immunity is what you do on your own naturally. They feel that the combination of that is still the highest protection. But I think most of America is like, I don't want to get any more shot. I don't want to get any more COVID. I want to move on. So my recommendation is be aware of what's going on. Understand that we are coming into the summer. And with the summer, we don't really have a lot of pneumonias. It's not really peak RSV pneumonia flu season, which means if you do start to get sick, we could be looking at COVID. There are summer colds. There's summer coronaviruses, summer rhinoviruses, summer enteroviruses. They happen. Foodborne illness. But I had 2 people yesterday that sounded like they had full-blown pneumonia. And as I've told you guys, you cannot expect your hospital to have a bed with your name on it. No, that doesn't mean to run out and go get. What it means is exercise, get good sleep, eat healthy, and make sure your symptoms are addressed early on. We have Paxlovid. A common question I get is, will Paxlovid handle the latest strains? We have, I guess the latest variant is the JN1 and the LP 8.1 variant. These are variants that are more dominant. LP8.1 is a variant of JN1. The vaccines are supposed to target these variants. I don't know much about how close they would then target. Another strain, XFC, has been growing. So our Paxlovid, which is our antiviral, is very effective for COVID and multiple strains. I just can't say with any 100% certainty how good it's going to be for newer strains if it needs to be updated. But I got to tell you something. The reason why I'm not as nervous about our antivirals is our Tamiflu, which we use for flu. That's been pretty damn good. Considering all the variability of flu strains that we've had and how our flu shots range anywhere from being 13% effective to 60%, which is high every flu season in terms of preventing the strain that you might get, people treated with Tamiflu overall do pretty well. So there's a chance the way the Paxlovid was designed was to still be specific enough to be able to attack, a virus in the COVID realm. So I'm pretty happy with that. I just can't say, with certainty, what would be the most effective in terms of the newer strains. So keep an eye out for this. I am not surprised that there are COVID viruses in labs still getting leaked. Also, these viruses, once they're out there, they like to mutate. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So last week or earlier in the week, I was in Boston for a wedding for my friend's son. Beautiful wedding. It was gorgeous. It was at the Four Seasons in Boston. Oh my gosh, it was so nice, so fancy. Wow. Yes, I brushed my teeth. I wore clean underwear. Man, I definitely didn't want to be the worst or underdressed. This was a really, really nice wedding. And I love Boston. I've been to Boston before. Any opportunity to go, I just can't wait. But I decided to take that time to also go up the Eastern Seaboard. I've been to Rhode Island. I've been to Boston, but I've never been to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Although the road from Boston to Maine didn't really get you into Vermont, but I did get to go through New Hampshire and then go through Maine. And it was beautiful. People were really, really nice. Salem was a little weird. Salem, where they had the witch trials, I thought it would be, quaint and fun, and it was a different energy. It was just a different energy, and people weren't very nice. It was weird. There was also no bathrooms anywhere. It was not as we went to the home of one of the judges that I guess presided over the Salem witch trials, and so you got to see how the home was built, and but I judge a tour and a museum on if there's a way to go to a bathroom nearby, and no, they said just go to a diner across the street, and the diner wouldn't let you go to the bathroom. So I had a little bit of an issue, but it was just a weird energy. But Maine, exquisite. We saw the lighthouses. We went to Acadia National Park. But one thing that was very apparent to me on this trip, whether it was Boston, New Hampshire, driving through Maine, very few American flags. Now, years ago, I was in Boston maybe 10 years ago. You did see more American flags. You saw more homes with American flags, and even like colonial, those rounded flag, like red, white, and blue, rounded sort of flag banners. I remember seeing a lot more of those about 10 years ago. And instead, you still saw beautiful churches, beautiful, scenery, but I probably saw 3 times more pride flags than I did American flags. Now, I support the LGBTQAI plus community, but I found that interesting to see such a dearth of American flags. And then you saw Black Lives Matter and DEI flags and things like that. And so it is a more liberal part of the country. But, I was with my kids and one of them says, oh, there's one. And I go, there's a flag. I see a flag over there. And you wouldn't know it was America. It was very interesting. We did go and visit Harvard. I've seen Harvard before, but we want to walk around the buildings and walk around MIT, etc. No American flags. Now, again, I could have just been walking in the wrong area. These are beautiful buildings, but it was just it just didn't seem like you felt like you were walking in England. You didn't feel like you were walking in America. Yet, you go to Switzerland, you go to Zurich, you go to something, there's Swiss flags all over the place. You go to Germany, there's German flags all over the place. You go to Israel, there's Israeli flags all over the place. You go to Colombia, you see Palestinian flags. Where are the American flags? Well, Memorial Day is this Monday. We honor the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Memorial Day falls on the 26th. It originally was known as Decoration Day, and it originated in the years following the Civil War, became a federal holiday in 1971. Many people use this day to buy a mattress for their bed or go to the beach. Just remember, this is, a time where we are, observing what happened. Civil War ended in the spring of 1865, claimed more lives than any conflict in U.S. history. It required the establishment, according to History.com, of the country's first national cemeteries. So by the 1860s, Americans used to hold springtime tributes to the countless fallen soldiers, decorate their graves with flowers. And so eventually, some of the earliest day memorial commemorations was organized by a group of formerly enslaved people in Charleston, South Carolina. This was less than a month after the Confederacy surrendered in 1865. 1966, the federal government declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day, even though some think it was Charleston, South Carolina. And Waterloo first celebrated the day back in 1866. They hosted an annual community-wide event. Businesses closed. Residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags, and they did this on May 5th, 1866. On May 5th, 1868, General John Logan, leader for an organization for the Northern Civil War veterans, called for a National Day of Remembrance later that month. He recommended the 30th of May, where we would put up flowers, decorate the graves of comrades who died in defense. So they called it Decoration Day. On the first Decoration Day, General James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery. 5,000 participants decorated the graves of the 20,000 Civil War soldiers there. And so eventually Decoration Day became Memorial Day. And, Memorial Day was observed on May 30th. But in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May, so it gave 3-day weekends for federal employees. The change went into effect in 1971. So, I know everybody likes the 3-day weekend, but, as opposed to Veterans Day, I think they wanted to change. Was that Armistice Day, where November 11th, the end of the war, to designate, that day. I think they tried to turn that and make it into like a 3-day weekend, but people said, no. The November 11th is significant. We cannot change that. And so Memorial Day, they do, now make it, have it as a 3-day weekend. And then on Monday, although honestly, I think 365 days of the year, we should be honoring those that sacrifice and those, who we lost. And I like to also honor the families too. Even though Memorial Day is more, people always kind of mix up Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Memorial Day is to honor those who died in combat and who sacrificed. And I believe the families also sacrificed. But Memorial Day, we honor those who have fallen. Veterans Day honors all veterans alive, past, etc. So, I just found that kind of interesting that the week before Memorial Day, and it didn't even have to do with Memorial Day, just, we're in, and we drove miles. So we drove hundreds of miles to get from Boston to Acadia National Park. I mean, it was about a 2.5-hour drive to Portland, and then another 2.5 hours to Bar Harbor, almost halfway through, while you're going towards Nova Scotia. I mean, we followed a huge chunk of southern Maine. Just didn't see a lot of American flags. I think the number of flags I saw, I could count on one hand. And is it that we're losing are we losing interest? Are we losing faith? Are we losing respect for our amazing country when we put a flag up? And many people will put a flag up for Memorial Day this weekend, and thank you for doing it. It'd be nice if you could keep the flag up year long. But still, we'll take what we could get. But when you put the flag up, the flag, one, reminds you of who you are, reminds you of where you are, and reminds you of what was sacrificed in all these wars, in all these, acts of patriotism. The American flag was held. When you look for a safe space in a foreign country, you look for an American flag where the embassy is. Now, I understand some people say, Dr. Daliah, you know how hard it is to keep a flag? And then if it gets torn, and it doesn't furl right, you have to keep, you know what? It's the least you can do for our country. It's the least you can do for those who sacrifice. 1-877 Dr. Daliah. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there's been a lot of rumors that Tom Brady is coming out of retirement and is going to play again. There's a caveat. He's not going to go and play, I don't think, for the NFL. I don't think he's going to be playing football per se. I'm trying to get a Super Bowl ring, another one. But it looks like he might come out of retirement or sports retirement to play for the Olympics, as I believe when he's 50 years old, it's going to be the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Can't wait. I'm getting tickets to something, and I'll get tickets to this. I believe flag football is going to make its debut, and he might be on Team USA. This is fantastic. As you know, he is very physically fit, cut, muscular, barely any body fat, so handsome. I could look at that man for hours. And he's probably in better shape than most athletes out there. Not to mention, he is a leader. He knows how to play. He knows how to work with the team. So according to the new report, he may play for Team USA in flag football in L.A. And he said he was eager to play for the United States. This is according to Daily Mail. And so some people are like, why would he do this? Well, maybe he has accomplished so much that he's like, you know what? I don't have a gold medal. So maybe he, sorry, it's really distracting with him there. Anyway, maybe he feels like, you know what? I got enough Super Bowl rings. I got kids. I got to be, in movies. I want a gold medal. So, and he likes to compete. You can't take the athlete, you can't take the competitive, you can take the athlete out of the competition, but you can't take the competition out of the athlete, if that's some sort of a saying. If not, I just made that up. And so, he likes to compete. He likes to, he's not old. He's 47 now? So he's going to be 50. By that, I don't think he's too old to play, especially in somebody in that shape. And maybe he needs these goals. Remember, I told you a lot of athletes suffer from post-athletic depression. And the reason why is their whole life has been goal-oriented. Okay, I need to make this meet. I need to make this race. And there was always something to work towards. And then all of a sudden, you're out of the sport. And then other people are starting to beat your records. And then, not to mention, you're not exercising and getting all those endorphins to the degree that you did. Now you're starting to gain some weight. And so a lot of athletes, once they leave their sport, they're not as happy. And they feel like, I need to get back in. I need to keep doing something. It's a lesson for all of us. I got into show business, and I was talking to my friend Eleni. And she goes, why don't you do that? I go, because I'm old. I'm in my 30s. And she's like, that's not old. You're not too old. And so I, got my audition, reel together and whatever. And then I did it. And, luckily I got into radio. And so, I know people, leave show business to go into, and they say, this is where you wind down. But for me, I like it. I've been here for 16 years. I love it. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. But then again, also, I don't have to be, playing against a bunch of players that could be knocking me over. But, Tom Brady, he had to retire because, one, he didn't want to be on a losing team. He would have won on a high note when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. But, then he retired, then, tapped out. Maybe the kids, the wife drove him crazy. Who knows? Went back in. Bucs didn't end up winning the Super Bowl the few years back. But he doesn't want to get injured. He doesn't want to have some of these life-altering injuries. Flag football, that's kind of, softer. That's a lot. I played flag football, and trust me, it was really interesting. In the late 70s, flag football got pulled from my school district because two kids ran into each other, played flag football. One's glasses broke, and the glass went into the other player's eyelid, and then the other child's tooth went into the scalp of the other student, and they were like, flag football is too dangerous. So I didn't get a lot of flag football growing up because kids were getting injured. But for the most part, they know how to do this and how not to get, it's interesting. There was an article saying Gen X's are least likely now to get hired. That's my generation. Now, they like boomers. Employers like boomers, baby boomers, but the Gen X's are the forgotten generation. The Gen X's, like me, not very hireable. Why? Well, they think we're tech resistant, that we're like, you know what? I'll just do the math in my head and make everybody feel stupid that they're not doing math, right? That they're using a calculator. Why? Because in school, we got smacked pretty hard if we used a calculator and didn't think about it in our heads. They also think that we're kind of set in our ways, because we saw what the newer generations got, and we're like, come on, man. We did this all by hand. Are you kidding me? Look, I could do it by hand. I still do this with driving. I drive my kids crazy. And I'm like, I want stick shift. I want to go back to a manual. I'll back up and I'll turn my head. And the kids are like, Mom, use the camera. You have I go, I am not going to use a camera to parallel park or to look behind me. I'm going to do this old school. Well, so this is, until arthritis sets in. But, this is what drives employers crazy. They don't want somebody set in their ways. They also worry that a lot of us older people are going to retire soon. Look at Tom Brady. He retires and he comes back. Then he retires again. Now he comes back. So, anybody who's ever retired can tell you it got boring and, we wanted to still keep ourselves busy. So they think Gen X's are not going to know what they want if they do retire early. And then, it's interesting. In my medical office, we would have the younger nurses and we would have the older nurses. The balance was fantastic if you had a balance, but there were pros and cons. The newer nurses were very energetic. Some of them were really willing to learn. You could train them and you could mold them to what that practice needed. But they didn't have the experience. They didn't have that, I think I better run a pregnancy test. Or, I'm not going to just wait the minute and a half. I'm going to let this, urine test sit just in case. Your older nurses, they already had been through it all. They're very seasoned. I could rely on them, hardly had to train them. But then on the other end, they were very difficult to train. But that's not how we did it at the other doctor's office. I go, didn't that doctor get sued twice? I don't want to do it the way they do at his office. This is why you're here. We don't get sued. Okay, we do things kind of right. I had one nurse that was arguing with me, and she left that doctor's office because they got in trouble for fraud. And I'm like, I don't want to do anything like it was done at that office because they were accused of fraud. So we're going to do things my way. And so that was, a little, that would always be a little difficult. But for the most part, I would take experience any day. Because somebody who's experienced, especially in the nursing field, they understand, you're not doing bad medicine. So I got into a big argument with a woman who was a nurse at an urgent care. She wanted me to give Decadron and Phenergan to somebody who had a really, really bad headache. And I said, can I meet them first? Can I talk to them first? Turned out the guy had a brain bleed. And so, she respected me, and, when I disagreed with her because I was right. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.